Hi ma'am, good morning. Chapter 16, Understanding and Influencing Culture. In this chapter, it explores the nature of organizational culture and its impact on the task of the service operations manager. Some ways of describing and diagnosing organizational culture and propose some ways that organizational culture can be influenced to assist the operations manager in the task of providing high levels of service experience and outcome, in which cost effectively. Understanding and influencing organizational culture is central to delivering a consistent service and implementing changes. For example, an operations manager may have decided to try to bring about improvements to the operations through team working and providing discretion and autonomy to the workforce. If the culture of the organizations is one of fear and distrust created by an individual-based system of rewards and punishment, with highly centralized decision making where top level permission is required for any decision. Managers must understand the current culture, the opportunities and constraints it affords, and how level as well as an organization level. It also indicates the need to understand the impact of national stereotypes on customer expectations. What is organizational culture? So, organizational culture has two broad schools of thought in organizational. The first is proposes that culture is something tangible, almost to the point where it can be written down in much the same way that an organization's chart can be included in the organization's operation manual. Culture is something that the organization possesses in much the way as it might possess a set of resources or products. The second purposes of organizational culture is a view of the culture is much less tangible and only really exists when people in the organizational talk to each other and by their words and behaviors act out of the culture of the organizations. The culture of organizations is often hidden below the surface of organizational life, and its impact is not always obvious because there are number of unspoken or unconscious aspects to it. It is this latter view of culture that inform the major part of this chapter. For services operations managers, the implication is that they must develop an ability to predict and prepare for the influence of culture, as we shall see in the next section. The spoken assumption about how the organizations operates have a massive influence both on behavior and on the way that we consider possibilities for services improvements. So here is the basic assumption and the service concept. So as you can see below, the framework for describing the organizational culture. So this framework suggests that organizational culture has a number of levels or layers to it. It is dangerous to assume that what we might observe on the surface is all that there is to the organization. So we can see here the artifacts. So visible organizational structures and processes, exposed values, strategies, goals, philosophies, and basic underlying assumptions, unconscious taken for granted beliefs, perception, thoughts, and feelings. This is the one of the reasons why seemingly irritational decisions are frequently made by senior managers who are influenced by unspoken aspect of the way that the organizational thinks about itself, what is good and how it assesses successfully and what it values. So, artifacts. Artifacts are the visible aspects of the organization, its structure and process, and other physical evidence that can be observed or felt by both customers and employees. For the service operations, artifacts might include elements of the services or less intangible issues such as the celebration of success of good customer services or in the seniority of the champion of service within the organization or at the board level or several levels below. Control system that emphasize the importance of customer satisfaction rating alongside the financial metrics by the evidence of a customer-focused culture. Espouse values. The second level of culture operates in the cognitive level. It describes the stated strategies and beliefs of the organizations. Thus, this level may include aspects of the organization's mission statement, the general strategy as declared and set down by the leadership team, and the statements as to the general values or guiding principles of the organizational. So, as we can see, Aswad list of company values that includes some of the following. So, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Develop teamwork, respect the individual, committed to outstanding customer service, aim to be the benchmark for the industry, operate with integrity, and encourage initiative. So, the aspect of culture again refers to the conscious level of human interaction and thought. There is frequently a sense that these supposed values and beliefs are what the organizations to prepare statements that might contain phrases such as that we work together as team or we value individuals, which do not necessarily reflect the experience of the members of the in progress. A key aspect of espoused values to be taken into account by the service operations manager are those aspects of an organizational culture which might be interpreted as negative in the eyes of the outside. For example, might be the 2 years up or out culture of some consultancy firm. This is not usually discussed with their clients, but nonetheless might have an impact to the service provided. The organizational might have stated ambitions in terms of its basic service strategies that are also not borne out in practice. So the relevance to service operations key to success. At one level, this might be a genuine desire on the part of the organization's management and employees. Basic underlying assumptions. So, basic underlying assumption refers to those unconsciously held views that were undiscussed and generally unchallenged. So, a basic assumption are those beliefs and ways of working that have worked well for the organization in the past. Indeed, its secret of success in the past. These basic assumptions are often expressed in rather more simple, even primitive terms and many competitive strategies or public sector policies. It is this primitive aspect to the basic assumption that means it is often deeply held and fiercely defended if anyone challenges it or suggest it should be changed. So, an example of a basic underlying assumption might be the belief that all workers are lazy. A consequence of this belief would be that management would become over-directive, effectively disempowering customer contact employees. The end result would be rather robotic service from demotivated employees effectively, living down to their managers' expectations. So many services organizations operate in this way, although they would probably deny it. So the underlying belief or basic assumption would be that keeping a tight control on cost is the right way to increase profit. It would be extremely difficult for the organizations of this type of implement longer-term customers retention strategies. So because basic assumption operate to the unconscious level, it is difficult to identify them. So managers and employees may only recognize them with deep level, may be resisted at an unconscious level, if only because the change moves people out of their comfort zone. An organizational culture is only really understood when the unconscious part of the organization's personality is revealed. One of the most powerful ways of uncovering the key elements of culture is to provide a framework for members of the organizations to discuss the aspects of their world and to begin to understand the various impacts on their behavior and therefore eventually on the service they provide for the customers. 16.3.2 The Cultural Web. The paradigm. The word paradigm has been somewhat overworked in recent years, but it is a particular important in understanding organizational culture. The paradigm is essentially the way that we view the world, the sets of values, principles, and possibly prejudices that inform our judgment. So this is the cultural web paradigm. So we can see here the paradigm, then power structures, organizational structures, control system, routines and rituals, stories, and symbols. So the organizational paradigm may have a number of phases. So a description of the sector of which the organization is a part, for example, hotels, computer service, government, or financial services. The principal customer segments that it seeks to serve: global organization, small businesses, or individual consumers. The paradigm may contain some beliefs about what the organizational thinks is good about itself, such as being a risk taker, innovative, or responsive to the customers. Finally, it may contain some aspects of the way people think about the organization that are less positive. It is ruthless, risk-averse, or arrogant. So, it is important to identify aspects of the paradigm that are helpful for service delivery as well as those which hinder. Organizations that believe that long-term customer satisfaction is more important than short-term profit will generally find a supportive environment for service delivery. Organizational structures. So this aspect of the cultural web deals with the organizational structures as it works, at least on the paper. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here below is some questions to ask to understand these aspects of organizational culture. So the following are: is the structure hierarchical or flat? Is it organized geographically or by product area? Is it function or process driven? Is it bureaucratic or flexible? Is it based on the teams or individuals? So, power structures. This aspect of the organization's culture is particularly important when it comes to changing the way things are done. So, power structures may have nothing to do with the way of organization chart as it grown. So, some individuals appear to have far more power than their status would suggest. So the importance of power structures as they relate to service delivery might be the negative power sometimes wielded by frontline employees. It would appear to delight some employees to withhold information from the customers, because this gives them perverse satisfaction, undervalued in the organization that they will employ this negative power tactic as a means of asserting their importance. Leaders use a combination of personal charisma, expertise, and positional power to bring about changes. In bringing about changes, it is critical to know where the powerful fruit change people are in order to build alliances to see the change through. It is important to identify those who are able to block changes. For example, in a water company, it became clear that a major factor in the delivery of a customer service strategy was the extent to which a group of relatively junior employees would buy into a new customer-focused approach. Power can also be used very positively to the customer focus. No one can dispute the influence of Lord Marshall at British Airways or Jack Welch at GE in driving through improvements in customer service. So next is the control system. The control system are the guiding infrastructure of the organization. So performance measurement is at the heart of the most control system. So there was always a danger that individual profit tangents and businesses measures of success would come before any other measures of success. So we give out a very strong message that said, the only thing that matters are your customers, and if those customers are happy with what you are doing for them, it's customers first. Second, and individual businesses and department third, in terms of any decision you made. Next is the symbols. Symbols are the physical evidence of who or what is important in the culture. A couple of decades ago, it was relatively easy to see what was important in a large organization because the manager's status was linked to which floor their office was located on, with directors at the top of the junior staff at the bottom. Symbols may also be the human role models of the organizations. Certain charismatic leaders may become symbols of change. For example, Richard Branson of Virgin, Southwest Herb Kelleher of Southwest Airline, or Tom Farmer of WikiFit. Their role in modeling customer-focused behaviors cannot be emphasized enough. The relevance for customer focus may lie in how symbols become linked to the service. In a security alarm, company sales staff had cars, while service engines had vans. This might make rational sense, but sent a clear message that service was very much the poor relation. The next one is the stories. Stories is the final aspect of the cultural web. It's the stories that circulate in the organizations. So these are sometimes called the war stories and are generally told to be new starters early in their stay in an organization. Part of the process of influencing culture might lie in creating a new set of stories, linking heroic acts of customer service to success. The famous stories such as Federal Express taking initiative to hire a helicopter to get an essential package through, or of Nordstrom refunding a customer's ownership. This this table below shows the cultural web analysis for a financial services company. A typical process for developing this analysis is as follows. So first is the develop a common understanding of the key elements of current culture, possibly through the use of facilitated focus groups. Second is the examine the current paradigm and decide what aspects would be desirable to change to fit with future strategic directions. The third one is to identify mismatch between the desired paradigm and current elements of the cultural web. And the last one is to develop action plans to influence or change where possible. That's all. Thank you.